Thank you for being here this morning. It's always wonderful to share a dais with Santrup and Professor Bala. I call him Professor. I sit on the Godrej board and he's been a great source of knowledge for me. I've learned a lot from him over the last 3 years that we've been board members on everything from finance to recruitment of senior leaders to what is the role of a board member. I've learned immensely from him. So thank you, Bala, for the invitation, and it's always a pleasure to come here. I was here 2-3 years ago for a completely different session. Today, this topic of transformation is something which I'll try and look at it from a very different angle and not necessarily just an HR angle. Okay? What do I do? Okay. First, what am I going to cover for you today? I'm going to define for you what is king generation. Who is the king today? Okay. Second, I'm going to ask a fundamental question. What's the contract between an organization and an employee today? What's the contract between an employer and employee today? It's fundamentally changed ever since I started working, I can tell you, in the last 20 years. Things have changed dramatically in terms of what the contract is. The contract is no longer what it was when I started my career. Third, what are the characteristics of people who are looking for employment in an organization? People such as yourselves who want to pass out of this institute. What are the characteristics of what I call the middle-level managers in an organization for transformation? What are the characteristics of leadership? What do you need? Then we'll talk about king gen behavior. What's the kind of behavior I see? And I have a slide on the kind of things we do in Nokia to actually address this new employee and how successful or unsuccessful we are at it is what I will cover. Okay, so this is what I'm going to cover for you today over the next 30 minutes. First, some very stark facts. This is the world we live in. The average CEO tenure in the 60s used to be 10 years. The average CEO tenure in the 70s, 80s became 5 years. Currently, the average CEO tenure is less than 3 years. So first question when you discuss transformation, what is the role of the CEO when he is on virtually like a flight ticket or on a train ticket? He's got 3 platforms or 3 stations to cover. 3 years, that's it. So the pressure on him to produce results, what we call transformation results, is immense. If he doesn't do it, one strike, you're gone. The main reason why CEOs are changing is poor performance. The board, whose sole job, the biggest job a board has, is to hire and fire the CEO, they're getting less and less patient. They're getting more and more impatient, saying these results are not good enough. Thank you, please move on, we'll get somebody else. So the leader himself is under immense pressure in today's world. That's the first one. Second, the leader's team, the vice presidents who report to him. Half of them are being recruited from outside regularly. 20 years ago, they were all homegrown people. Today, most of them are being recruited from outside. So next question for all of us, if you want transformation, who is providing the emotional glue? What is the leadership team which understands the values of a company or the principles of the company? Where is the storytelling in the company which says, okay, 15 years ago we tried this. There's no storytelling today. So this transformational team, they're all a bunch of expats who've come in from somewhere else. Expat to the company. Okay, think about it. Third, a third of the Fortune 500 companies are exiting the list every decade. They are 500, 160 are dropping off every 10 years. Either merger, failure, whatever it is. They're dropping off. Next fact. Today, the top Fortune 500 companies hire less than 33% of what they hired in 1985. 25 years ago. Okay? So fundamental changes in business. Okay? These are challenges which both the CEO and the HR person have to come to grips with. There is no easy answer. These are the stark facts. A business has 2 kings. One, the consumer. The consumer is king. Various people call it differently. The consumer is king. David Ogilvy said the consumer is your wife. She is not a moron. A.G. Lashley of Procter & Gamble said the consumer is boss. Somebody else said the consumer pays my salary. Whichever way you define it, the consumer is king. In today's environment, the employee is also king. The consumer is king and the employee is king. And both the consumer and the employee are making you dance in different ways. They're making you dance in fundamentally different ways. And funnily, many employees don't realize what it means to dance to the consumer's tune. That's the real challenge. It's a real challenge for every CEO. It's a real challenge for every line manager. The consumer, this is my only slide on it because the bulk of my attention will be on the employee and HR. The consumer judges brands today on value, innovation and responsiveness. That's all. If you don't have good value, you are not innovative, you're not a thought leader, you're not responsive to his or her needs, wants, desires, you do not have the money from his or her wallet. That's it. Every single time. We see this again and again in Nokia. If we are innovative, we go gangbusters. The day we are not innovative, the consumer punishes us. These are the three things this king is demanding from us. Value, innovation, responsiveness. Next, let's look at the employee as king. This has happened in the last decade. Okay, not before that. In the last decade, this is what I've seen. The employee is king, but good question to ask. Where's the kingdom and who are the subjects? It's a very important question to ask. The employee is king. Great. But who is the kingdom? Kingdom of one, subject of one. That's what's happening. So, a big question for all of us. What is the contract between the modern company, which I just described in chart 1, and King Jen in terms of an employee? What is the contract? Is there a contract at all? This is what life was when I started 2 decades ago, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it was. I was the individual. I had a dream and a plan for my career, but it was all in the context of the company. It was all in the context of the company. That's how I got my stature or my whatever in society. It was in the context of the company I worked for. This was how life was 20 years ago, okay, when we started careers. Unfortunately, it's moved the other way around now. Today, it's the company career, but the bigger time frame or the bigger boundary is the individual. There's nothing wrong. We are in a free society where we want to value talent. We're in a free society where you can trade the talents, the skills and the brain power you have. There's nothing wrong with it. But we need to deal with it. This is today's life. If we want to deny it, we're not going to run companies. We're not going to run any company if we don't agree to this new way of thinking by our employee who's king. Full stop. Let me give a simple example. A story about 4 years ago. One of my managers, a chap called Pranav, in Nokia India, was applying for a job in Nokia Singapore. We have an open job placement system. You can apply for any job if it's vacant in the world. And people are considering him. His boss, DK, came to me and said, Shiv, Pranav's a good guy. I want to keep him here. I think he can do a lot of good work in India. Why don't you please have a word with him? I said, sure, DK, I'll do that for you. So I took Pranav down for a cup of coffee and asked him, hey Pranav, why do you want to go to Singapore? You have enough challenge here, we're on a growth track, etc. After 5 minutes he said, Shiv, I agree. No, you're right, I think I'll stay back. I'll stay back in Nokia India. I don't think I should pursue the Singapore job. So I was happy, strike one, well done. Then I asked him what I thought was a CEO question, which is what many CEOs had asked me. I looked at him and said, Pranav, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Okay, the big question, this is what we are taught. He looked at me straight in the eye over a cup of coffee and said, Shiv, I don't know where, but definitely not Nokia. That was the shock of my life. When I was in Unilever, if Dr. Ganguly had asked me, Shiv, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I would have said, here sir, where else? Fundamental difference. Then I asked him, it shook me. So I asked him, Pranav, why did you say what you said? And he said, Shiv, the world is changing so fast. Why would I want to commit myself to anything or anybody? Okay, I don't know, maybe I'll start something on my own, I'll do something else. They're full of opportunities. So I'm not thinking 5 years out. Thank you. Absolutely fine. Next example. I had a colleague in Unilever, I won't name him now. He went and joined a company. I met him on a flight from Ahmedabad to Bombay. I met him on a flight and I said, hey, what are you doing? He said, I'm the CEO of this company and I'm part of an investment group, and they have made me the CEO. I said, damn good. I said, what are you going to do? He said, Shiv, this company will most likely be sold for about 3,000 crores in the next few years. Okay, and my mandate is to increase the value, and I get 2% of that. I said, geez, you're going to get 60 crores? He said, yeah. I said, the company got sold at 3,725. Okay, I won't tell you the name of the company, you can guess. I said, fantastic. Then I asked him, what happens to you when the company is sold? He said, the new employer can take me for a year, that's max contract, otherwise I opt out. I said, but what are you going to do? He said, Shiv, I'm a serial CEO now. I said, what do you mean? He said, every 3 years, there will be a venture capital group who will look for a CEO and go there. I said, yeah. And he said, look, Shiv, you build institutions, that is your job. Okay, so you are there, one company, two companies, you stay, that's your job. I appreciate and respect you, but I'm a serial guy, this is my life. Very different. This is the raw truth today, and we need to come to terms with it. What happens in organizations today? Whenever a company grows, like Santrup was describing, attrition is low. When a company starts growing at less than 5%, attrition picks up to double digits straight away, directly. Any company which is not growing by more than 5% is seeing double digit attrition straight up. So the only answer, whichever way you head in terms of transformation, you need to grow your business. Especially in India, people want to come to work for the thrill of growth, for the energy of growth. Growth keeps people young. That's why they're coming to work. So first rule of transformation, whatever we do, we have to grow. That's rule number one. What are the characteristics that young people look for in organizations? We've done lots of studies on this. First, they want a challenging assignment. That's very good. Second, they want a competitive package. Material benefits are very important. They want a salary they can be proud of. Third, they seek work-life balance. Whether they embrace it is a different thing. They seek it. It's good to talk about it. Okay? So every interview is asked, what's the work-life balance? What the guy or the girl does after that, you don't ask. Okay, but they always ask this big question. Fourth, they want your company to be good CV value. If you're not good CV value, you're not the bestest, the first, or whatever on their balance sheet, you're not good enough. Next, they want good colleagues. What is the kind of talent we have in this company is something that they ask. They want wider opportunities. Funnily enough, 15 years ago, if you told somebody, I take you here, your future posting could be London or Stockholm or Singapore or Dubai, people would be very happy. Today when you tell somebody your future posting can be outside this country, they think of it as a punishment. Believe it or not. And I ask a number of people, why don't you want to go abroad? We have a good job for you in Finland or Singapore or America. And they say, Shiv, the biggest opportunities are in India. Why do I want to waste 3-4 years of my life sitting in headquarters somewhere? Forget it. I'd rather be in this market which is coming with growth. Why should I go elsewhere? Okay? So wider opportunities, but all in India. They want you to train and develop them. That's part of the CV value. And of course, everybody seeks a certain degree of job security. Okay? These are the characteristics that young people whom we're recruiting really are looking for today. These are the top that I picked out. So, you have young people coming in. India is going to get younger and richer in this decade. India is going to get younger and richer. Okay. You don't run every company only with young employees. You don't run every company with just management trainees in your fold. It doesn't work. Okay. Most good companies are run by what is called the core. People call it different terms. The solid citizens, the core, the weight carriers, whatever you want to call them. There is a core of solid guys who run a company, who know every single process in the company, who know what's going right, who know what's going wrong, and who worry about the company's fortunes more than anybody else. This is what I call the core. These core guys typically look for respect. They just don't want to be taken for granted, and all that they seek is recognition that is soft. Putting the guy on the pedestal saying, great job, please lead a team, please lead this cross-functional team. That's all they're looking for. They're not looking to be the CEO. They don't have aspirations to be the CEO. They're not looking for $1 billion bonus packages. They're not looking for that. They want deep respect, and they want you to understand the stage of life they are in. Whether a kid is going to college in America, he needs some money for that. Whether a daughter is getting married, those are the kind of things that they're looking for. Okay? This is a solid core citizen. Whatever transformation you do, you need to carry these guys with you. You have to carry these guys with you. You have to move them one step at a time. They will not move 10 steps overnight. It will never happen. But they are solid. What are the characteristics of leaders, especially if you want transformation? First and foremost, the company and the people must have faith in the leader. I cannot tell you how important this is. Go back to what I said. If the average CEO tenure is less than 3 years, why would somebody believe you? When you start this process, why would somebody believe you? Nobody will believe you. They'll say, thank you, that's a good speech. Second, you must have confidence in the leadership team. In the early days, 20 years ago, when India started its liberalization, the bulk of business writing and everything was focused on the leader. And companies worked on the leader's diktat. Next came the board. People started loosely identifying what's the board. Today I believe it has to be the top 10% of managers in a company. They are the guys who can drive the transformation. Not the leader alone, not the board alone, not the management team alone. The top 10% of leaders in a company are absolutely crucial for any transformation effort. And finally, all the leaders need to come across as having one agenda, and the only agenda is the company's agenda. When employees see different sets of agenda from each leader, then they just do not follow it. So for me, if you really want transformation, you need to treat what I call this King Gen as volunteers. People who come, they volunteer for work in the morning from 9 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock, full stop. They're volunteers. Like all the ball boys and ball girls at Wimbledon are volunteers. They don't get a salary. They get recruited, they write an exam, they come there, they just do it for the joy of doing it. So employees have to come to work as volunteers today and not as paid employees. It's a huge challenge. How do you do this? By addressing a very big question, the why. Why are we in this? If Nokia didn't exist tomorrow, what will the world miss? Why is Nokia important in the life of any individual in this world? What is our purpose? That's the big question which excites people. We need to bring people in as volunteers behind the big question of why do we exist? That's what is the really big question to answer. King Gen change jobs, companies very early in their career. And typically after that they decide to stay put. Okay, when I see CVs, a guy with 10 years experience typically has had 6 to 7 jobs. Believe it or not. And I really ask him, what have you learned in any job? He's got a long CV, I've done this, etc. I said, when you say you've done this, you put a PPT around it, is it? That's all? What have you done? If you don't do a job for 3 years, I don't think you've done a job. That's, okay, maybe old school thinking. First year you're learning on the job, second year you put a strategy and fundamentals, third year you see the results of that. Minimum time frame, life is not 6 months. It doesn't work like that. So typically they tend to change jobs early and then stay put after that. When do they decide it's time to move on? And first, this is like tournament. You play a tennis tournament, you play a badminton tournament. If you don't win the first round, okay, you're out of the tournament. A very important thing we found with next King Gen employees is that first promotion is a very critical signal. If you pass over a young employee for the first promotion, he will leave like that overnight. Okay, it's a very critical measure of his own self-esteem as to what has happened to me in my first promotion in this company. Handle that very carefully. You don't need 2 years to judge whether the guy deserves to be promoted. Handle this extremely sensitively. This is the first signal. Second signal we find of this journey. Friend's opinion of him and the company and his salary matter more than what the boss tells him. Okay? They are constantly comparing, constantly in a tussle of my company, my salary, my material benefits vis-a-vis yours, how's it looking? It's a constant comparison. Okay? So that's the second one. And third, funnily enough, people leave, and when you do the exit interview and talk to people, they tell you the truth. Shiv, this company has figured me out, so time to move on. Believe it or not, a lot of people say this. Now, I've been caught out here in this company. Okay, time to move on. These are the three big reasons why very young people are leaving companies. Attrition rates are the #1 priority and #1 challenge for most CEOs. Every CEO I talk to, his biggest concern is talent and attrition. And this is the big driver of young people. What are we trying in Nokia? Describe things in 5 minutes. Some very different things, some common things. First, we have an internship program, a summer internship program. I think this year we brought in 30 people. Okay? We put them through the best projects owned by the leaders of the company. And after 30, anybody who's top-notch talent, we make him an offer immediately. That's it. Cost of recruitment goes down dramatically. His loyalty to the company also moves up. So the first stage we try to filter out really good people is our internship program. 30 guys in, the best guys always pick. Second, after doing that, we still go to campuses for management training program. Typically, we tend to recruit about 12 people a year. We've been doing that now for many years. Okay, that's our normal strength. So we get people from across the board, go through the same 12-month program, cross-functional, things which DCM did, things which Unilever did. They were the pioneers of the management training program. Okay, we just adopted that and fine-tuned it for today's generation. That's what we've done. So as part of that, they get to go to Finland to see and meet the senior leaders. As part of that, they go and get exposure in another country. They do all that. Third, all the ones marked in green are very unique, which we do. We have a program called Meet the Leaders. Meet the Leaders is a very unique program in the sense that we select 20-30 employees every month to come into head office to meet the leaders. But the interesting part is they decide which leaders they want to meet. The company doesn't decide. So these 30 guys, the HR team sends out messages to them saying, who are the leaders you want to really talk about business for one day that you're here? They give 5 names, those 5 leaders are called. So they elect whom they want to meet. It is not a company election anymore. Okay? Fourth program, very unique, gets us the best scores, shadow program. Okay, we have the top 30 leaders. Okay, as I mentioned, the top 10% of a company. We have 300 people there. We have 10,000 people in the factory. The top 30 leaders. Every new employee who joins the company, okay, laterally or direct or management training, will come and shadow a top 30 leader for 1 week. When we say shadow, he sits in every meeting the leader sits in. Like I've had 2 girls shadow me in Dubai. A girl called Miriam Minhas, HR, and another called Alena Sohali. They sit with you in every meeting from morning 9 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock. At the end of every day, they ask you questions. Why did you say what you said? This is how I experienced you. This is how I felt about you as you went through your meeting. Okay? This is happening. This, more than any education program you can do, opens people's eyes. When they sit at leaders' desks, when they see the confidential issues being discussed, nothing is off limits. Okay? This has got us the best scores ever. We call it the Shadow Program, hugely successful in the organization. We have the Asia and Africa Talent Development Program, which many companies do. Then we have a Young Sky Program, people in the age group 25 to 30. We have a list of 33 people across India, Middle East, Africa, who we bring in 4 times a year. Okay? The next session is on September 17th, 18th, with only one topic: how to make better presentations, how to be a better communicator. That's the single biggest issue that they are not good at right now. They all think they are good at it, but the single biggest issue they are not good at is that. So 1.5 days, only that topic. The first one we did was only strategy. What is strategy? Okay, that's what we do. Then we have the next 50 leaders as a succession plan for the current leadership team. Each employee can pick and choose all the external training programs he wants. Anybody can go to 4 external training programs in a year, max limit. Some take 2, some take 3, some take 4. What are we hoping to achieve with this? When the person goes out, one of the things we're realizing is he gets a very good reality check on the culture of Nokia vis-a-vis the culture of other companies. The best reality check. Whatever the leader says is not as powerful as when he goes and meets people from the other companies, what they say and how they behave and what they're talking about their company is a very good reality check for him, number 1. Number 2, when people go out to external training programs, they become ambassadors of the company. Number 3, it helps them because all these training programs are chosen for the areas of improvement in their development plan. Okay, that's how it's aligned. But it's the choice of the individual. So Guys in my management team choose a Harvard program, choose a Wharton program, it's their call. Okay, they have a separate budget, they can do what they want with it. So complete freedom to the individual is a very important thing of transforming simple training and development. Okay. So in summary, I believe we're seeing a very different business world. A very different company where the average CEO tenure is less than 3 years. Half the leadership team is coming from outside the company. Okay? And a generation, both of consumers and employees, which is really challenging the way business is working. The consumer is asking for superior value, superior innovation, superior responsiveness. All of them come at a cost. The employee is asking for very different things. The two people are making you dance very, very differently. I think all of us need to think afresh in dealing with this. Earlier, long service awards used to be 30 years. Then they became 15 years. I think shortly there will be 2 years. Long service award will be a 2-year term. Okay? Life is different. We need to deal with it and we have to handle it. And my simple submission, if you really want transformation in the organization, you need to have multiple employer value propositions. It is not the day for one single employer value proposition anymore. Multiple employer value propositions is the route to go, and you need to sharpen this. So ladies and gentlemen, at the end of 28 minutes, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to put this together. The best reality check. Whatever the leader says is not as powerful as when he goes and meets people from the other companies, what they say and how they behave and what they're talking about their company is a very good reality check for him, number one. Number two, when people go out to external training programs, they become ambassadors of the company. Number three, it helps them because all these training programs are chosen for the areas of improvement in their development plan. Okay, that's how it's aligned. But it's the choice of the individual. So guys in my management team choose a Harvard program, choose a Wharton program, it's their call. Okay, they have a separate budget, they can do what they want with it. So complete freedom to the individual is a very important thing of transforming simple training and development. Okay.